5 moaning kids. You know what Maggie's like with illness. If she gets a cold, we're all organising sponsored walks to send her to Disneyland. Do you know what I miss most about not being at school? The Monday report.
The what report?
Your report. Every Monday morning, the report you give me. What happened to you on the weekend? The rave-ups.
Late and Live, the topical talk show where you do the talking. Your host, Dave Barrett.
Thank you. Thanks so much indeed. Welcome to this week's Late and Live. And on New HTV 100, back for their second go. Look at them. There they are. Wonderful stuff. And let me welcome my partners in crime, of course, Fenella George. And Katrina Buchanan. Welcome back. So,
I got here without tripping.
You decided to come back, and on those shoes as well. You should see the shoes.
Amazing.
Anyway, we're kicking off tonight with privatisation. What do you think, or who do you think ought to own our water, our gas and electricity, even the air we breathe? Well, two lively guests are with us to discuss the issues, Ken Livingstone and Sir Rhodes Boyson. But first, let's hear from Fenella. She'll tell you what we've lined up for the rest of the evening.
Thank you, Dave. We'll be doing What Comes Naturally, yes, much later in the programme. That is, we'll be talking about it. And with us is someone who makes her living from it. I mean talking. Comedian Jenny Eclair. She'll be arguing the case for sex. Hurrah! But of course, with the safe approach. On her soapbox, we'll have one of the new HTV 100, Helen Freeman. She's got a revolutionary idea on how we might deal with crime. And our hot seat guest tonight is Norman Parker. He spent 24 years of his life sentence for murder behind the locked gates of some of Britain's toughest jails. Released last year, he's got a tale or two to tell.
And as usual, we want to know what you at home think. So here are our lovely ladies at the phones. We've dragged them out of the bar for another evening. And our phone lines are already open, so you can call us on 0272, here they've started, 722 555. That's 0272 722 555. If, however, you would prefer to fax us, you can, of course, because we've got a fax machine here. We're very high-tech. And the fax number is 0272 722 522. 0272 722 522. And now to a man who could fax me any day, Dave.
She says the sweetest things. Well, this week we've heard a great deal about the privatisation of our railways. It's an issue which has divided the Labour Party as Tony Blair moves towards rewording Clause 4 of the party's constitution. Traditionally, Labour has believed that public services should be in the public sector. Well, we're not going to confine our first debate just to the railways. We'll be talking about who should own and run our water, gas, telephones, electricity, post offices and even power. Someone who has very strong views on the matter is our first guest, Ken Livingstone, Labour MP for Brent East, known to many as Red Ken. He's one of the old Labour left who is opposed to any moves towards privatisation. And on the other end of the sofa, we welcome Sir Rhodes Boyson, Conservative MP for Brent North. His long involvement as headmaster of a North London school before he moved into politics equipped him well for his position as Education Minister during the Thatcher years. Sir Rhodes and Red Ken have been constituency neighbours for some time, but they very definitely stay on their own sides of the fence. Welcome to both of them. Sir Rhodes, can I start with you? Hasn't the privatisation of many of our main industries really just led to lots of people, lots of ordinary people losing their jobs, massive profits for these companies, sometimes cuts in services, and big pay increases for their chief executives?
Well, if you look at the British Telecom, the actual charges for telephones now is 28% less than before it was privatised, despite the fact of inflation going through. The same applies to gas. The only actual increase of prices is in water because of the restrictions, and I don't know where Ken stands on there. We both come from Brent on Europe, but because of the restrictions on the question of the purity of water in this country. In every other case, it is cheaper than it was before. And secondly, there's 10 million people in this country who now have shares in these industries. Thirdly, before we actually privatise, you had to subsidise the nationalised industries by £3 billion a year. Having said that, and I'm all in favour of privatisation, I think it is right. I would say I don't like the way we're doing it in railways. I think that is a bit of a mix-up from that, and I have to put that on the record on the way.
Okay. Thank you. Let me turn to Ken Livingston. Ken, I mean, hasn't Sir Rhodes got a point there? Services, many people have said services have got better in some industries, and certainly prices have come down.
Basically, they banged all the prices up before they privatised them, and they've carried on in many instances in the first few years. These last few years, when inflation's virtually, I mean, not been a problem anymore,
That's
fine, they've come
through
under
the
pressure.
Conservative government.
And also, because you've got rid of hundreds of thousands of jobs. So our prices may have come down, but our taxes are going up to pay the unemployment benefit, all the extra people out of work. And the people who really made weren't the 10 million ordinary people who just bought a few shares each. I've got no argument with them. It was the big buyers that moved in. Because if you actually take electricity, we sold it £17 billion cheaper than the accountants said it was worth. Now, that means everybody in Britain lost £300 on that deal. So if you bought some shares and made a profit, you got it back, but most of us didn't. And it was just another way of taking from the poor and giving to the rich like you.
All right.
What if Brett Noy? What if Brett Noy?
Before we go, can I just hang on? Just before we go to the 100, can I just put back the thing about jobs to you? I mean, thousands of people have lost their jobs. The companies make more and more profits, and the more profits they make, the more people they seem to lay off. What do you say to the job issue? It's
On
an
the
important
job
one.
issue, look, I don't want anybody unemployed if they can be done. But on the other hand, you can't have the jobs which don't really exist. And in the national
Well, they've existed for many years.
I mean, look, it is cheaper now because of what has happened, because they've actually cut down the labour forces. They have to go into other industries. Otherwise, we'll have a low standard of living in this country. We can't live on other people. We have to live on what we actually
Right, let me
produce
stop
here.
both of you a second, because I'll come back to you. I want to go to the 100 to get some views on this. Privatisation, who's for it, who's against it? Hang on, gentleman on the front row first.
Fine. I'd like to talk to Sir Rhodes now and just say, look, fundamentally, when you have a company in the public sector that's geared to service, that's what it does. When you move it into the private sector, it becomes, the emphasis changes completely, and you end up with the anomalous situation where you say they're offering service when the whole emphasis is on bottom line profit for shareholders. Wessex Water is a classic example. The gross dividend yield on Wessex Water at the moment is 5.5%. with a covering ratio of 5, which means if they don't make another penny profit, they can meet this year's dividend payment for the next 5 years. And yet they cut their capital expenditure from 12 million to 2 million 2 years ago on mains drainage. I mean, that is an anomalous,
isn't this
crazy
all about
situation.
profit and losing jobs and making more profit?
No,
Isn't
I've
that
already
the thing?
said. I mean, all the prices of nationalised industries, apart from water, which you've taken up, actually is cheaper now than it was before. And that's where everybody here is paying less.
Well,
I mean, they are the figures.
Hang on, lady on the very back row there. Yep, hi.
Justify British Gas. They've given the chairman loads of rises.
Oh yeah, look,
Then
I'm not defending him.
Hang on.
I'm not defending. I'm talking about nationalisation, not the chairman.
Wait. Then they've cut. They're going to cut from 9 million to 1 million on gas leaks. Finding out where the gas leaks are. How can you justify that with privatisation?
Well, the other point here as well is surely all you've done is you've created what were public monopolies into private monopolies. You can't have a choice of where you get your gas from.
And
You can have a choice of whether you have electricity or gas. But
Well, you had that before.
if you go, I mean,
enough.
let's go to the horse's mouth. Mrs. Thatcher, 1983 manifesto. She said it would be a lost opportunity if we took public monopolies and merely turned them into private monopolies. And that's all they've done. These people have got us by the short and curlies and they're squeezing.
OK, more points. Lady here, yeah.
The thing is that a lot of subsidies are being used to meet the rail demands and to meet a lot of the industries that were privatised. Now, can I ask you why, and can you justify the fact that people are paying so much in taxes to subsidise these industries, nationalised industries?
It's a very good point.
Well, you actually had there were those industries we took over which were collapsing. In 1945, the mines, the railways, they were a disaster. If we hadn't taken them over, they would have just come to a stop. A lot of the privatised industries made a profit. BT made a profit when it was owned by the state, but it came to us and it helped keep our taxes down. One of the reasons the taxes are being banged up so much now is the income you used to get from the profitable public sector, like gas and electricity, is no longer there. It's going into private hands, like the sort of this Cedric Brown character we should string up.
OK, let's go to the lady here. Yeah.
I've worked as a temp for quite a few years on and off, and I've worked for major companies, and the one thing I noticed was the staff that were left worked damned hard. On average, they were probably covering 3 people's normal work, and their wages were not being risen. There was no pay rises. A lot of them were struggling financially, and Bristol is a very profitable area, and yet 3/4 of the people that work in this area are struggling on the wages, the income that they earn. That is what you have done to us.
Our gas workers have been told they've got to take a cut, in fact.
This is really stop the world we want to get off. Either you actually produce economically on a free market, or you have a low standard of living. And you have to make your choice on that. And I mean, why is the rest of the world privatising now? Why is Eastern Europe privatising? Why is everybody else privatising? I mean, this is Rick Van Winkle here.
Gentleman here, sir, yeah.
I would like to ask both gentlemen how they have the face to come on this programme today. Red Ken, he represents a philosophy which is, except in China, where it's kept down by the army, the whole population has thrown out communism. Eastern Europe has thrown out communism. So Rhodes Boyson represents a government which, by its immoral privatisation, by the way that they have bumped up their salaries, all the sort of immorality is not just happening in Westminster, it's happening in the privatised industries.
All right, let's go back to Cameron a second. I mean, have you got
They're paying me, that's why.
Have you got a bit of a fundamental problem here, though, because Tony Blair is trying to forge forward with a new Labour Party that is going to appeal to the majority of people in this country. If you're going to go back to a lot of old ideas, he hasn't got hope in hell of winning the next election, has he?
I mean, this idea, whatever somebody is pushing, they say, this is a new idea, we don't want these nasty old ideas. Let's look at actually what's been proposed. I think people in Britain accept that, and the Liberals accept this, for God's sake, I mean, not just the Labour left, that if you've got a monopoly, it should be owned by the public, not be in private hands. And therefore, I think most people will be happy to see all these privatised utilities come back. Now, clearly, you won't be able to do that quickly or rapidly, but I want to see water come back. I want to see British Rail come back. And I really think it's outrageous. And look what happens. We privatised the mines and closed them all. We were sitting on 300 years of coal. I mean, this is the economics of the madhouse. And for a government that says it's in favour of family values, we always say we've got to work harder. But when people are not working just 9 to 5, but 8 till 6 or 7, they don't see their kids. They start to get all the family problems. People are under stress. People aren't on a job any more than a contract.
OK, let's go to some more members of the 100. Gentleman on the front row, sir. Yeah.
What I would like to say is we actually owned these public utilities, and 3 million people, was it, or 5 million people now own shares? There are 50 million people that already own those shares.
Right.
Margaret Thatcher and the Conservative government were the biggest coal merchants that this country's ever seen. Robert Maxwell looks like a petty criminal.
OK, let me go. We'll go, gentleman on the end there, sir.
Yes. I would like to ask a direct question to Mr. Livingston. Of the countries, if it's possible for him to name just a few countries, I know he's knowledgeable, where privatization is the order of the day, and those countries have got less poverty than we have in this country.
Okay.
If you actually look, Britain, I think, is the country that's done most in terms of privatisation, because it's where it started here. It was the Thatcher ideal. We've been doing it for longer. We're now advising other people how to do it. What we've seen in these 15 years is the growth of an underclass. If you want to privatise, if you want to widen inequalities of wealth, well, accept the fact there are parts of our streets you can't walk, and there are people that are going to be forever basically out of work.
Right. I was being devil's advocate. You'd find that, am I not right in saying that those countries that have nationalised everything, their poverty is much worse than you find in this country?
No, no.
Much worse. Name me 3 countries.
Well, let's just look at Russia, which is the most dramatic example. You went from the
They're
state...
falling. They're
No,
gone.
no,
They're gone.
no, no.
They're
You went
falling
from the
to-
state
they're going
owning
down.
everything, and when I went there, I mean, it was fairly grim existence, but everybody had a basic minimum standard of living. Now they've got privatisation, it's all been flogged off, and you've got people dying in the streets, you've got a small elite group of millionaires.
Well, they're not dying in the labour camps, which they were dying before.
But it wasn't working before, but neither is this. You've got to find a middle ground in which you have a strong private sector.
I just want to get a show of hands. Hang on a sec. Can I stop you there for a sec? I just want to get a show of hands. How many people have actually bought shares in any of the privatised industries? Anybody? We got yeah, a few of you admitting to it. OK, John on the front. I mean, why did you buy shares? Did you think it was it just to get the money or what?
Initially, I bought British Telecom shares, and I admit yes, because it was going to be.
You saw it as making a quick profit, perhaps.
That's right, but I didn't actually sell them. I still have those shares. I bought shares in Rolls-Royce and in BA, and I've still got the shares.
So what's wrong? What's wrong with ordinary British people making money out of buying shares?
Well, as somebody said in the audience, we owned it all before.
You didn't.
It
The
was
government
then-
owned it.
No.
And the government ignored it. You didn't own it. The people didn't own it. The government did it, and whatever party in power did it to their own advantage entirely.
Who are the government those to us, not like the people? I mean, don't the government represent the people?
But the idea that the people had a say in this, they hadn't a say in this. I mean, it's whichever government was in power did it to their own advantage.
No, they didn't.
And they put the put the capital in the places where they wanted to win votes.
I'll tell you who's done it
That's
to
what
their
they
own
did.
advantage. It's cabinet ministers who've privatised an industry, retired, and been given a seat on the board and paid £500,000. That's the one that's doing it, yeah.
OK. We'll stop for a second. We're going to go to Fenella.
He doesn't
who's
agree
got
with that either. I
OK,
know
well, that's good. We've got some views from you at home now from Fenella. Hi, Fenella.
Thanks, Dave. Well, a lot of people at home getting involved in this one, so that is wonderful. Let me kick off without further ado. Richard Carter from Midsummer Norton. Here's one for you, Mr Boyson, actually. I've never been a Tory supporter, but Mr Boyson does speak a lot of sense. So there we are. Compliment for the evening. There's one down. Lovely.
Very good. How about that?
Steady. Tony Havenden from Bradford-on-Avon. Politicians should get on with running the country and not running businesses. Tisk tisk. Marie from Kingswood. About the water charges she's talking about. People who live alone should pay less for water than families as they use less. Fairly sensible comment. And Peter Swaysland from Weston-super-Mare. He worked for Sea-Link for 12 years. It was privatised by Mrs Thatcher and sold then 5 years later for millions of pounds profit. They all lost their jobs in 1986. And finally, we have a... No, it's a comment, so I thought it was a question. Why are most of the privatised companies run by ex-MPs who privatised them originally? There you go.
Let's go back to Rhodes on that. I mean, it does often happen, doesn't it? Do you agree with that?
No, I don't agree with that. I think, I mean, if you've denationalised something, then you should not be involved with it. I think that is wrong. And I will say that quite clearly, irrespective of whatever party actually did it.
Right.
Because I think there should be a gap of at least 5 or 10 years between privatisation and somebody who did that privatisation going on a board.
All right. Let's hang on. What? You haven't got a microphone. Hey, hold on just a second. I'll come to you in a
you.
second. I'll go to this lady first. Yeah.
Ken, can I ask, do you have any shares in any of the privatised companies?
No. I mean, in the first... No, I never bought any and I haven't sold any. I was opposed to it, and I think it's wrong for politicians to pass laws doing one thing or vote against them and then do the other, which is why I think Labour politicians should send their kids to state schools.
All right, more comments. Gentleman there, sir.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm not necessarily against privatisation, but I really do object to the way in which it was done. Most of these companies were perhaps overmanned, invested or whatever by the government, but what they did was lean them down prior to privatisation, so it made them an attractive proposition for the markets, and then were grossly undersold. And the performance figures that they've come up with ever since been due primarily to staff cuts, and these chief executives taking an awful amount of excess pay. A 10-year-old could sit in that same position and receive exactly the same.
All right, gentleman on the front, sir.
I think we're all missing the point here. Can't anybody see how much money the government was actually losing with these companies? You look at British Rail, you see the many, many staff they have on platforms. What are they doing? They're doing nothing. And like with any business which needs to be floated on the stock market, it's got to trade at a profit. And that's what these companies
But do
doing.
essential services have to make profit? I mean, it's service v profit. Does everything have to be profit?
If the government wishes to privatise them, yes.
But there's nowhere in the world where a public rail system makes a profit. I mean, if you actually made everyone pay the cost of running their car on the roads, it would be horrendously expensive. We subsidise the roads. We should just subsidise the rail as much.
All right. We'll stop you there for a second because we're going to go to Katrina. We're going to have a vote on this one at home. Katrina.
Yes, now it's time to find out what you think after having heard from our HTV 100. So it's time for the vote. The question this evening is, do you support the privatisation of public utilities? Now, if your answer is yes, you do support privatisation, then phone us on 0891 400 601 to register your vote. If, however, you think no, you don't support privatisation, then you call 0891 400 602. You have 2 minutes to register your vote, and it starts from now.
OK, let's get some more comments from the 100. Very quickly, yeah.
Hi. Once again, Rhodes, you've got a situation. This is totally ideologically driven, OK? You believe in the politics of the new right, and you were a heavy Thatcherite. Well, Thatcherism had a major fault in that you tried to give popular capitalist or capitalism, and the only macroeconomic instrument you used were high interest rates. Ask these people here how many of them now have got negative equity in their properties as a result of that.
OK, how many have got negative equity?
A lot of us.
Well, let's ask you and find out. Put your hand up if you've got negative equity in your property. Is your house worth less than your mortgage? Is your house worth less than your mortgage? Put your hand up. Yeah, is the mortgage bigger than the value of your house? Well, there's a few, but not that many. OK, sir, yeah.
Never mind what this gentleman said earlier on about you being full of outdated ideas. What you have to do, Mr. Livingston, is ensure that Clause 4 stays as it is. Because we need the means of production, distribution and exchange into the hands of the workers. Because after 16 years of you and the havoc and the destruction you've wreaked upon us, you've proved beyond any reasonable doubt that you're incompetent and you're unable to look after us.
All right. Go to the back, sir.
I'd like to say to the Conservative MP, your party has promised to give us the earth, and all you've done is salt water us on it.
Very poetic. Very poetic. Go on the front row, sir.
Yeah, I'd just like to say with privatisation, instead of the money going back into the business, you're satisfying the shareholders. That's leading to job cuts, and also you're cutting corners, and especially the health and safety aspect. You've only got to look at the water with pollution there, and you know that's the most important
more
thing.
polluted before.
All right, lady here.
Under a nationalised industry, there is no reinvestment or very reinvestment in the infrastructure. So, I mean, this man says about people actually taking the money and making profit out of that, but how can you justify a nationalised industry that you can't actually reinvest the money that's been made and there's no reinvestment?
There's no investment. This is the way the nationalised industry is set up to fail. The Treasury wouldn't let them borrow the money to have proper investment, but what's happened in virtually every privatised industry, they've cut the investment programme in order to increase the dividend to the shareholders. And that's what's wrong with British industry.
OK, gentleman on the front row here, sir.
It seems to me that Sir Rhodes Boyson has forgotten all the positive things about nationalised industries, how they've promoted good employment practices, like equal opportunities, like pension rights, like sickness benefits. And if you take the railway, you don't think that we will still have student rail cards and concessionary benefits
Well,
for
they're
the elderly.
guaranteed. Hang on, the government has guaranteed those, so let's get that last part from
Actually,
there. Let's also say about that. I mean, they were uncompetitive with the nationalised industries. I mean, they were dinosaurs in what they were doing. Since they were privatised, I mean, the gentleman there from British Telecom, we now have one of the best telephone systems in the world. We hadn't before. In London, you couldn't find a telephone working until the actual privatisation brought cards in. Everybody emptied the money out, and you couldn't do anywhere.
Sorry, as Ken Livingston said earlier, do some services always have to run at a profit, like transport, like British Rail? I know you're against the current privatisation plan there, but do all service industries have to run at a profit?
I mean, one has to be reasonable about this. I mean, I said at the beginning, there's no railway in the world making a profit. And if you want to provide for the railways, to keep the railways going, you will have to subsidise them. And I don't like the way we are privatising that. I'm quite frank about that.
OK.
I also spoke against the privatisation of the post office.
Right.
But I think if you can put things in a market where they're competitive, you have a higher standard of living, and that's what everybody wants, including Clause 4.
I just want to finish with Ken, because we're almost out of time here. If the Labour Party do get in at the next election, are you going to renationalise a lot of those industries? Because Tony Blair seems to be saying no.
Well, Tony Blair's been moving under the pressure of the debate, because I think he's finding
been
a
all
lot
over the
more
place,
support.
isn't he? Let's be honest.
No, finding a lot more support for public ownership than I think he expected. I'm certain we'll renationalise British Rail. I'm fairly confident we'll take back water, and I want a load of other people to get in there with a struggle to take it back a bit more than that.
OK. We're going to go to Katrina now, because she has the results of that vote. But before we do that, let's thank Ken Livingston and Sir Rhodes Boyson. That
was a very quick 20 minutes.
Yes, your 2 minutes were up, and it's time to find out the results of our viewers' vote. And an overwhelming win in favour of for the no. You don't support privatisation of the public utilities. So let's go to Fenella to find out what we're going to be coming up next.
Well, we're going to take a break now, but don't go away because we'll be back with more hot and heated debate. Remember, at midnight, Jenny Eclair will be arguing for our freedom to enjoy safe sex. Hurrah indeed. But straight after the break, our soapboxer has a plan which involves all of you men out there. And in the hot seat, an ex-con, Norman Parker. Remember that rumour about the Parkhurst prisoners finding out how to make their escape? There was a book in circulation in the prison. Guess who wrote it? Join us again in a couple of minutes.
Now, Astro Sex with Mystic Meg.
I see, my free guide to love and astrology, which signs have most passion power, and how erotic your sign can be.
Free Astro Sex guide, that's the news of the world this Sunday.
It's a funny old world.
It's the power of the menthol vapor action in Hall's Mentholyptus that helps to release the pressure of that blocked-up feeling.
Like the mother of any normal family, Mrs. Mortis worried about feeding them the same old things. But then Bachelors gave her a helping hand with super noodles. Twisty noodles in a mouth-watering chicken flavour sauce. It was so uncannily tasty, the family insisted she put her feet up. Super noodles, another helping hand from Bachelors.
Up to 20% off summer 95 holidays and only £5 deposit.
Amazing.
A.T. Mays. Amazingly good travel agents.
I thought perhaps really they're all the same, just in different boxes and different colours, but I really was pleasantly surprised that there's a difference.
Tara Donnelly talks about Always.
The special top sheet does make you feel particularly dry, so you can carry on all the activities you normally do, and you just feel like it's something you don't have to think about.
Unlike conventional towels, Always has a one-way dry weave top sheet which draws virtually everything into the towel, so the surface stays fresh and dry.
I definitely use Always again. I wouldn't go back to using the other type. I just much prefer Always.
Always. All you feel is fresh and dry.
Time is money. So how can Orange help you save it? We charge 1 second at a time for your calls with no rounding up. We include in your £25 monthly subscription 60 minutes of calls. One of 5 monthly price plans with minutes included. Call 0800 286 286 for full information about Orange mobile phones anytime. The future's bright. The future's Orange.
How about salmon with tarragon sauce, then?
Mum doesn't eat fish.
OK. Chicken a la king.
I had chicken on the plane. Morning, dears.
Afternoon, Mum. Sleep well?
Well, of course, George is allergic to the dust. Oh, Oxo cubes come in jars now, do they, dear?
No, Oxo sauces come in jars. A new and welcome arrival. Just like you, Rosemary. What's for dinner, dear? Pork chops with a mustard sauce. Mustard doesn't agree with George, dear. Here we go. White sauce with mustard for those who do, white sauce without for those who don't. Not putting you to too much trouble, are we, dear? Oh, no.
That's it, they're having no more tonic wine in the break. Now, before we go to our soapbox, I just have a question to read out, which is from Joyce, who phoned us from Staple Hill. And during the discussion on privatisation, her question was, is Fenella wearing a wig? Well, I think we'll have to have Fenella on the hot seat, I think, one of these days. We'll get to shake her head around. So, it's to the soapbox, and tonight on our soapbox is Helen Freeman, and she's a rather extreme solution to a problem which won't go away. Now, I hope the lads don't get too shirty, because, Helen, it's your turn, and you've got 1 minute from now.
Well, the premise of the argument is quite simple, really. Over 50% of the population in this country are female. Over 50% of the violent crimes committed are committed by men. Yes, men. When I go out at night, I'm not afraid of being raped, assaulted or murdered by a woman. Well, not really, anyway. It's a man that'll do it. So I think there should be a curfew imposed on men from 10 o'clock at night through to 8 o'clock in the morning. Yes. You could have exceptions of, say, the emergency services, or buses could be run by companies for their employees. But anybody else out after 10 at night, they could be rounded up and slung in a cell overnight. They do the same thing with stray dogs in America. If you think it's unfair that a majority should be punished and should suffer because of the actions of a minority, how do you think we feel? Because if anything happens to a woman who's out late at night, sure as eggs, there'll be some dimwit pops up and goes, well, she was asking for it. Well, I'm here to tell you, loves, she was not asking for it. We're not to blame. Get your house in order.
OK. Well, not surprisingly, a few men have their hands up at this point. Let's go to the gentleman at the very back there first. Yes, sir.
Well, I've got to say, that's absolutely a twaddle. Sorry.
I'm not surprised, love.
The first thing I would say is that, I mean, I would totally go for that if you could actually keep women off the road, female drivers off the road from 6 o'clock in the morning. Hang on. No, let me finish. You had your say. To keep female drivers off the road between 6 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night and make the roads a safer place.
Sorry, I think your figures are slightly out of context. If you walk down Bedminster or throughout Bristol or any major city in the UK, you will find gangs of young females. Some are as young as 10 years old. They're out to 4 and 5 in the morning when they're causing trouble. They're burglaring properties. They're mugging. They are mugging people.
Which lady down here said they don't mug people? Who said
they do?
There are girls who are mugging people.
Not that either. More men than women.
Lady here. Yeah, go on.
It's a completely illogical argument, what you're saying, because you obviously don't know the fact that most rape and most violence that happens to women happens in the home or by partners.
Let me say.
Can I also make a second point before you interrupt me?
Come back then.
Magistrates, most magistrates, who aren't exactly the most progressive people in the world, will not argue in favour of curfews, which makes me think that it's an incredibly backward argument what you're putting forward. It's incredibly authoritarian and all about regulating people's behaviour without solving anything.
Oh, really? Well, can I just say that you said that most of this happens in the home. Well, love, you don't have to be there with them. I've only said men have to be there. You can get out and have a good time. In safety.
Not all at once. Gentlemen there, sir.
You're sad and you ought to get a life.
I have. Maybe you should.
Two gentlemen at the very back. Let's go to that one. You first, sir. Yeah, then we go. Yeah.
If every bloke's in by 10 o'clock, what are the girls going to do on a Saturday night?
They would be out having a good time.
I don't think any girls will have a good time.
All right, gentlemen next to you.
Can I just ask a lady what time she's due back at Glenside, please?
Let's go. Gentlemen here, sir.
Don't you think you might get fed up with dancing around your handbag all night?
There'd be no bloody difference.
Gentlemen there, sir.
Yeah, if I'm going to be in after 10, have you got a bottle to supervise me?
I wouldn't be there. It's not up to me to supervise you, aren't you? You're not grown up.
Can I ask, just get a few show of hands here, I mean, how many people think this is a good idea? Anybody? You've not got a lot of support there. It seems pretty... Hang on a minute. There's a man over here who thinks it's a good idea. What do you think?
Yes, I think it's an excellent idea. Yeah. I'd love to accept a male curfew if I could have a female companion as entertaining and witty as you. Yeah.
By all means, I'm not restricting female behaviour at all.
I'm being a bit sexist, so I'm going to all the men just to annoy you. Gentlemen there.
I'd like to know how they're going to police this. You know, I'm sure the sale of dresses will go up to the criminal classes.
Gentlemen next to you, sir.
Well, I don't mind the idea of it, providing they change the rules on shopping, so the shops can only open from 10
till 8, and that will save me having to find different excuses every week why I can't go shopping with my wife.
You can go out in the day.
Gentlemen at the back, I'll go to a couple of ladies.
Well, I'd just like to say that they say Joe Brown is a good comedian.
Yeah.
I think this is a much better comedian.
Lady up there, yeah.
If there's a male curfew, what's the point with me and my mate going out hunting men?
Listen, I did say it started from 10 o'clock. I didn't say before that. So after 10 o'clock, there's heaps of time for you to catch all men and go back home and have some fun with them.
All right.
On a more serious note on this, though, because of men, it has become necessary this week in Bristol, I believe it is, for a hotel to open a floor specifically for women, and in Swindon to open a car park specifically for women. It's because no, it's not a gimmick. It's because of men's approaches to women, because there are now more women, professional women, going out and travelling than there was before, and to keep them from unwanted male attention.
Isn't this PC gone a bit crazy, though, really? Lady here, yeah.
I think that idea is no good. It's all very well sort of taking that attitude, but don't you think we should have stiffer penalties for the crimes that are being committed by men, so that people can be safer?
All right. OK, we're going to have to leave it there because we're out of time, but it's a very interesting idea, I think. So a round of applause, I think, for our soapbox then.
I might not get home alive.
Right, well, our hot seat guest has spent well over half his life in prison for murder and for manslaughter. He's been locked up with the great train robbers, the Kray brothers, and a host of hard criminals. He's done time in Parkhurst and was freed only last June after serving 24 years of a life sentence. He is Norman Parker. Norman, welcome to Late in Life. Can I ask you first, two killings that you did, both murders and then one was changed to manslaughter. In fact, on that first one, you could have ended up, if it hadn't been changed to manslaughter, possibly being hung. It was still the capital punishment.
Capital punishment
was still there.
1963, yes.
Do you feel, looking back now, that you've served your time and you are kind of, it's right that you should now be let out of prison after killing 2 people?
Well, I would say that anyway, wouldn't I? But yes, I do think so.
Right. Now, tell us a bit about the prisons that you're in and the people that you met, people like the Krays. What were these people like? Were they very nasty people? Dangerous people?
I think people lose sight of the fact that Ronnie Kray is a certifiable lunatic and has been a certifiable lunatic for most of his adult life. So we're talking about somebody who is by definition sick. Reggie is very much the same as most other professional London criminals. This isn't an excuse for him, but as I say, you can find the same type in the old bank robbers and...
Right. What were some of the worst things that you saw and experienced when you were in prison? Was it a very violent place, for example?
An incredibly violent place, very much a warrior society, yes.
So what sort of things did you see happen on a sort of day-to-day basis?
Very serious assaults. Haven't actually seen them in some jails, rapes. I've been in jails where there have been murders. I was in a jail when I was 19 when my best friend was murdered.
Right. And you were in prison for 24 years.
Yeah.
How did they change over those 24 years, prisons? Have they got softer? Everybody seems to have this impression that they have. Is that true, would you say, or not?
Certainly not the long-term jails. Sentences have got longer, and the sentences are completely mad now, I think, in some of them. And it hasn't had any trickle-down effect. It certainly isn't a deterrent effect.
Right.
Also, there's no greater degree of freedom inside prison. People are being locked up. Long-term jails have got harder in many ways.
All right, let's go to the 100. Perhaps questions, Norman, also just general points about prison and whether it works, because we want to get into that as well. Lady on the front row first, yeah.
Were you ever frightened when you were in prison of your own life?
Yes, certainly when I was younger, certainly when my best friend got killed, yes. I literally picked him up off the floor and we didn't know who had done it. And it took them about 3 or 4 days to get some people and put them into segregation.
Were you in fear on a kind of day-to-day basis, was it? That
yeah,
sort of
for sure, every day. You know, a lot of people think, you know, a lot of the young people think that prison is a sort of colourful thing. A lot of people go out on a Saturday night looking for violence. You're talking about violence all the time. You can be sitting on the toilet, in the bath, watching the TV. Violence is an ever-present reality of prison life.
OK. What points? Gentleman there, sir.
Yeah, I just wondered, you know, like, these crimes that happened, were they just spur-of-the-moment things, or were they like, you thought, well...
Yeah, or tell us the 2 people you killed. Tell us what the circumstances were.
OK, it's going to take a bit of time, but you'll have to take my word on this. In my first offence, it was my girlfriend. She was a Nazi, She used to sleep with a gun underneath her pillow. The chief prosecution witness gave evidence that she saw her come into the room with a gun in her hand, and I shot her, so she had a gun and I had a gun.
And this was over at infidelity, yeah, as well?
Yes, there was a domestic side to it, yeah.
Okay.
But
And
this
what about
is
the... and that was
1963.
manslaughter in there.
Yeah.
You weren't charged with murder for that in the end.
Yeah.
The second time you were charged for murder, and you served 24 years.
Yeah.
What were the circumstances of that?
Well, in 1970, I was quite an active criminal, and together with another chap, we were planning a robbery. We had an argument over it. He pulled out a gun, I struggled with him, got the gun off him, and I shot him with his own gun. And it took 20 years and a case in the High Court before I proved this. So I killed a man with his own gun, but they ruled it was murder.
How did you feel after you'd committed that murder?
It's very much like a car accident. You haven't got time to analyse your own feelings. It's over the years that you have to try and come to terms with it. And the older you get, the harder it is to live with.
You still have to live with it, though?
For sure you have to live with it.
OK. Let's get some more questions and points. Lady there,
You
yeah.
should be banged up for the rest of your life. The reason why is because you say you've paid your debt to society, but what about your victims, that you've taken their life, their chances of growing up, being able to have children? What about those victims? Have you paid your debt to them? That's what I want to ask you.
Would it serve any purpose if I was kept into prison until I went completely mad and killed myself or something?
Life.
Well, hold on, we need to get your mic. Hold on, go on.
Life is life. You take a life, you got to pay the punishment. You do the crime, you pay the time. Sorry.
How many, can I just ask you, just out of interest, how many people here believe that for murder that capital punishment is right?
Yes.
And that, quite a few people here. It's a bit barbaric, though, isn't it? Gentleman here, what did you want to say?
I don't know if the people agree with me here, but you've got the gore to sit there and brag about this. And
No, he's not bragging about it.
Yes.
To be fair, he's not bragging.
Yes.
No, he's not bragging. That's
And
not
I'll
fair.
tell you what, I agree with the lady down there. You should be hanged. And yes.
But right now...
Who's disagreeing with that? Hang on, there's a lady over here. Yeah, go on. What did you were saying? Yeah.
Well, I do think that's ignorant. I mean, we have various views about it, but I hate this total retribution. Occasionally, just occasionally, and I'm not a do-gooder, I do think that there can be something that says at the end of the day, that person is redeemed. Now, that might sound do-goodish, but I believe it.
All right, that's gentleman at the back, sir.
I personally believe in hanging, but you've been incarcerated for 20-odd years. How do you cope with coming out after that amount of time locked up?
With the greatest of difficulty, I've got to try and rebuild. I mean, I'm not going for the sympathy vote here. You asked a question, I'm going to try and answer it as best as I can. Yeah, I've got to try and put a life together at 48, 49 years of age, when I'm out of touch with many of the things that have gone on.
Have you noticed a lot of changes generally in society now you're out?
Yes,
What's been the
great
biggest sort of
changes.
shock?
Things are very much tougher. Obviously, whereas before people would try and help people, it's as much as they can do to look after their own families now. It's getting very much like America over
Okay,
here.
let's get some more points. Hold on, gentleman here first, yeah.
Can I ask you if you feel genuine remorse for the crimes that you committed? And if you do, was that attributable to the penal institution that you've been in for the half of your life?
To answer the second one first, absolutely nothing to do with the penal institution. All the penal institution will teach you is violence must be right because the inmates use it against each other and the officers use it against the inmates. But the first part of your question, I can't prove it, but yes, I do generally feel remorse.
Okay. There was a lady there at the third row back. Yeah, what did you want to say?
What do you think prison is for? Do you think it's for keeping dangerous people like you out of the way, or do you think it's to rehabilitate people, make them better when they come out?
Okay. I think what it should be, the way prison is now, it does neither of those things really, you know. Yes, dangerous people must be locked up, but I think prison, you can do a fair degree of social engineering in prison because 95% of all prisoners are eventually released back into your community. And if you brutalise them, if you make them worse, you've got a far more dangerous person let out into society.
I just want to put a question, again, just from a show of hands from the whole 100 here. Do we believe, not necessarily in the case of murder, but just talking about prisoners generally, if you are put in prison for a crime, you serve your sentence and you come out, should you get a clean slate? Should it be forgotten from then on? Should that... Put your hand up if you think yes. Yes, put your hand up. Right now, put your hand up if you think no. No, so you continue to get people on and on and on then, basically. You never forgive them for whatever the crime.
No.
What's the point?
No.
What's the point of putting them in prison in the first place, then?
Well, I believe in hanging anyway. I think that if someone takes someone's life, like that lady said up there, that they should have their life taken away. Because you were saying that you were upset about your friend, weren't you, that was murdered? Well, you murdered 2 other people. So perhaps you can understand about that. And
I'm not just saying this, but I would do anything for anyone. I really
all
would.
you're doing is
But I'll tell you
justifying
what,
murder.
I'll tell you
You're
something.
justifying judicial murder.
I would hang you myself. And I really mean that, because I think it's
No,
terrible.
okay, good point there, aren't you, justifying murder? Because if you're saying murder is wrong, but you're saying it's acceptable to take somebody's life by the state, isn't that the same thing?
That's
It's still
different.
murder, isn't it?
They've already taken the life. They've already taken it. It's not murder.
All
It's
right.
not murder.
Let's go to
in that
some
one.
people who haven't spoken. Gentleman there.
Can you be sure that there won't be a third?
Yeah, good question.
Murder is a notoriously unpredictable crime, but in my own case, I'm pretty sure, yes.
Pretty sure. OK, gentleman on the very end, sir.
I'd just like to ask you this question. How do you feel as a person, knowing that you've taken two people's life? How can you justify yourself being a free man? How do you feel as a person being a free man?
Yeah,
right.
but at
He's
least-
still on parole, let's not
Yeah.
forget, for the rest of your life, I believe.
You're
though, Norman,
walking
just
free,
about.
but those people are dead.
Okay.
How do you
Are you still
feel?
carrying guilt?
Yeah,
Are you
how
still
do
carrying
you
guilt
feel?
around with you for that?
Obviously, if I could go back in the past and change things, I would.
You would.
But as a sort of an individual, as a human being, I've served 24 years. I mean, the Nazi war criminals only served 25 years, and it was seen fit to release those.
All right. So, gentleman at the very back, yeah.
Well, Norman
Sir.
is obviously a very intelligent, articulate man, but isn't there a danger you could become, say, a media personality, much like John McVicar? I mean, is it right that the person who did what he did...
But isn't
can,
this what you need? Because the point is this. I mean, do any of you believe the Home Secretary when he speaks on prisons? No. Do any of you believe the Prison Officers Association when they believe on prisons? No. Do you believe the Sun headlines and believe on prisons? Sooner or later, you people have got to listen to somebody who comes from prisons. I'm not advocating rape or murder. I'm trying to tell you what goes on in prisons.
All right, let's get to the lady at the back there, yeah.
If he had been hanged after the first murder, he wouldn't have been free to commit the second one.
All right.
Surely that's a good enough reason for hanging murderers.
The first one wasn't murder.
It's apparently statistically very rare for people to commit murder more than once. You know, we only hear about the serial killers, but yeah, lady here.
Can I change the conversation slightly? You wrote a book, and one of the chapters in your book described how to escape from Parkhurst. Were you surprised that that was actually published, and were you even more surprised when that book was actually let into Parkhurst prison, and
somebody
as
escaped?
a consequence, 3 people actually escaped?
I wasn't surprised it was published. They published a book on locksmithing. But yes, I was surprised it was in Parkhurst, because one of my criticisms of the prison is prison officers do not do their job efficiently. For example, the Parkhurst escape. The library officer, in my opinion, at Parkhurst should have referred that book to the governor. And in my opinion, it was not suitable to be let into Parkhurst.
All right.
In my opinion, it wasn't suitable to be published.
All right, we'll pick back up on these points in a second. We want to go to Fenella first, though, because she's got some comments and some questions from home. Fenella.
Yes, thanks, Dave. It's obviously a contentious issue, this one. Lots of people getting involved, phoning and faxing in. Ian from South Wales first says that Norman Parker has killed 2 people. He shouldn't be on the television, as the families of the people he has killed could be watching. One point of view. Now then, Bill Moore from Chipping Sodbury. Norman Parker should have been hanged 20 years ago, let alone being released to write a book. Harry from Horfield. It's absolutely outrageous, underlined, to bring a murderer onto the programme and make a celebrity out of him. It's disgusting that he's making money out of it. Last comment before some questions. Alison Morgan from Cardiff. Just read his book. He has a completely different view of prisons. Hope he does well, and good luck to him. So there's one from me.
I mean,
2 questions.
Oh, sorry, Fenella.
That's all
I
right.
didn't realise you'd finished.
OK, we have Carl from Bristol. What was going through his mind at the point of murdering people is one question. And finally, the last question. Quite an interesting one, this, I think. Colin Wyatt. Was there any kind of help for him in prison? This, I think, is very important. You've paid the price. Was there any help for you in prison?
Okay, Norman.
Absolutely none whatsoever.
And how do you feel, the other question was? I mean, what did you feel when you were actually committing the murder? What thoughts are going through your mind?
As I said earlier, it's a little bit like a car. I don't want to trivialise this, but it's a little bit like a car accident. Things happen very quickly. It's only afterwards you can reflect.
Sure.
And go back
Can I
over
just
things.
go? I want to go back to Andrea, because, you know, and indeed, some of the points that some of the viewers made there as well. But didn't Norman make a good point earlier when he said if we want to learn about what's going on in prisons, we have to listen to people who've been in there, who've been through it? Isn't that a fair point? I mean, anybody agree with that? Lady there, yeah.
Gamekeeper is a poacher, so why don't they take him up on what he said and let him do something to reorganise the systems in the prisons?
OK, lady here. Yeah.
I'd like to ask you, would you murder somebody again?
No.
Why?
Because I'm much more mature, that much more in control. and I've come to terms. I've imprisoned a beast, as it were, the darker side of my personality.
So the prison sentence actually served its purpose of rehabilitating you?
None whatsoever, because if I hadn't resisted it, it would have made me an even more brutal person.
What do you believe that prisons are prisons? I mean, prisons presumably should be there to rehabilitate people.
Yeah.
Do you think they're not doing that at all?
They're certainly not doing it.
How could they change to do that? What should they be doing?
Well, at the moment, prisons are just fast human warehouses. You've got every kind of criminal thrown in together, rapists, bank robbers, drug dealers. You could separate prisoners out into separate prisons and at least try and find what is at the seat cause. I do not believe in the theory of deterrence. I really don't. It does not work. If you could take me at 18 and give me the birch or cat and whatever, and it would have changed me, you'd have saved me doing 24 years. I do not believe in the theory of deterrence. You've got to attack the root causes of crimes, and the root causes of different crimes are different.
OK, let's get some more questions and points. Gentleman here, sir.
I think what we've seen tonight is the baser instincts in the audience here. I mean, it's all retribution, kill, kill, kill. And that's why we have an idiot of a Home Secretary coming out with this populist crap about get them in there, birch them, hang them, string them up. It will do society no good for us to become, as you said, much more...
Norman, you almost say that in your book, don't you? That the government really have no interest.
One of the problems is a structural problem. The Home Secretary is speaking as a politician. He's speaking for short-term political expediency rather than pragmatic, penological reasons.
Right.
There shouldn't be a politician in charge of prisons.
OK, let's get some more points. Let's go over here. Lady at the very back. Yeah, hi.
I don't agree with hanging, and what you've said to do with that you won't kill again. How do you know that if you say it's, instinct, it happens on the spur of the moment?
I think we've already covered that point a couple of times.
Right,
OK. But lady here, yeah.
Don't you think that when you had the Cray twins and the gangland bosses, you didn't get the everyday stupid little kid now that is going out with a gun? The gangland bosses at least kept them under control.
Is that a bit of a myth, though? I mean,
No.
Do you think that's true? Did they have control over all the
true.
crime?
I mean, I think the 70s were the area of the decent criminal, OK, decent inverted commas, who didn't attack women, who didn't rob old people. Certainly, I grew up in Notting Hill, which was a very, very tough area. If anyone had attacked an old lady in that area, we'd have gone out in the streets looking for them,
All right, OK, gentleman at the back, sir.
If prisons aren't working, then what would you do what form of punishment would you give a criminal to stop him from reoffending?
I said they're not working under the present form. Certain people, yes, there's most certainly got to be locked up, and sometimes for a very long time. I think you've got to reorganise and restructure prisons.
OK, how would you do that?
Well, I listened with interest to the earlier debate on privatisation. I'm very much a socialist, committed socialist. I do not believe in the market forces being allowed into the public sector, except with regard to prisons, because at the moment prison officers are interpreting their orders rather than obeying them. The chaos you see in prisons is largely because of the industrial action that is going on in prisons. At least with privatisation, you bring the rationale of the market. The prison officers will do what they're told. Managers will be able to manage.
Yeah. Do you think a criminal must be punished harshly to stop him reoffending again?
As I said earlier, I do not believe in the theory of deterrence. I was in prisons when there used to be the cat, and it used to be a sign of a badge of courage.
Right. What would you do?
Right, I want to move on to someone else, because some people haven't spoken. Gentleman there, sir.
To all those people who are sort of very much pro-hanging and everything like that, I have to ask you, who are you giving the right to hang someone? Right? As far as I'm concerned, it's the judges, the politicians, all these sorts of people. I don't trust them one iota. If you look at the whole use of sort of political banging people up, what are the people here who are saying they're pro-hanging going to say to the families of the Guildford Four who are locked up for a political reason?
Okay. Lady there, yeah.
As I was saying, you were talking about deterrence, and surely these people that are committing such awful crimes, they're beyond deterrent. As you said, killing somebody was like a car accident. You didn't have time to think about it. Somebody who's going to kill somebody is not going to think, wait a minute, that's 24 years inside. They're just going to do it anyway. It's an individual deterrent that stops them from creating more harm in our society.
All right, let me get a couple more comments, then we come back for some answers. So, on the end.
How corrupt is the prison service, and how do you think they're responsible for criminals reoffending? Do you think they actually compound the problem?
Okay, good question.
They do compound the problem. I mean, it's totally corrupt.
In what way is it corrupt, though?
Well, for a start, they're not run in the way that the public is led it to be run. I mean, you largely form your opinions on the basis of sensational headlines, and that isn't the true picture in the vast majority of prisons. A very basic lack of security inside the jail with regard amongst the prisoners.
Is there any form of bullying goes on? I mean...
Yes, it's an intimidatory, it's a warrior society. Intimidation is everything, depending on which jail you're in.
Would you change that as a system? Would you stop the prison officers? Would you have a different system altogether of controlling body within the prison?
Well, strangely enough, the more hardline the prison, the more violent the regime. When I was in a jail called Long Lartin, it was a very laid-back and liberal has become almost a term of abuse now, regime, and I was amazed how people responded. They did chill out. A lot of people reacted towards each other in a much less violent way.
You managed at one point in one of the prisons to make 3 6-foot lengths of ladder to escape.
Yeah.
How could you do that in front of a prison? For many people, that's amazing, isn't it? That you weren't stopped, you weren't spotted. How did you do it?
Well, as in every security system, once again, like Parkhurst, you know, any system is only good as the people who operate it. I managed to find a prison officer who's remarkably thick, and he carried the 4 sections of wood out of the workshop for me.
Really? On that point, we'll have to leave it. Norman Parkinson, I'm sorry.
And now something completely different. How important is sex? And how many of us really know what we're doing? I don't know why I'm looking at you, but I'm interested to know. I've never had any complaints, but I don't know if anyone ever worries about it. Well, coming up after the break, we have raconteur Jenny Eclair, and she'll be with us and to tell us about her outrageous thoughts on the matter of sex, especially safe sex. And to keep her in line, we have Cornelia Oddy of Family and Youth Concern, and she's going to be giving us the other point of view, a little more reserved, I imagine. But before that, it's over to our resident songsmith, Tony Cole, and this evening he's going to be confirming something that we've suspected for quite a while. Tony.
I'm a common or garden penis. I'm noted for my cleanness. My master is a careful sort of chap. His precautionary tactic is to use a prophylactic, which suits me fine, 'cause I don't want the clap. I'm a willy in a welly. I'm a willy in a welly. I really feel quite suave, and what the hell? You'll never see me on the telly, wearing fashion by Pirelli, but the only word for how I feel is swell. There's a fairly widespread hysteria about some small bacteria who live in places where the sun don't shine. They're really rather yucky, and they're passed on just by nookie. Why don't you get an outfit just like mine? I'm a willy in a welly. I'm a willy in a welly. And I really feel quite suave, and what the hell? You'll never see me on the telly, wearing fashion by Pirelli, but the only word for how I feel is swell. They're the very best thing to throw on to thwart a spermatozoon. Forget your access, these are flexible friends. They'll avert both AIDS and rabies, and also ward off babies, although they tend to get stuck in S-bends. I'm a willy in a welly, I'm a willy in a welly, and I really feel quite suave, and what the hell? You'll never see me on the telly, wearing fashion by Pirelli, but the only word for how I feel is swell. But the only word for how I feel is swell. Thank you.
For a fantastic family holiday, the answer is Butlins. Book now for massive savings on summer 1995 holidays.
There is a tyre that combines grip and long life with a new outstanding feature.
up to a 5% saving on fuel in comparison with our standard tyres. Michelin Energy, driving down the cost of motoring.
How much? Family knees up in Monte Carlo. Wise decision for a Gary Glitter fan.
Every day, thousands of savers receive a cheque from Legal & General.
Now, must remember to pay the milkman.
This ray of sunshine was brought to you by the big company with the umbrella.
What the heck? Gold top tomorrow.
After eating, dentists agree plaque acid increases the risk of tooth decay. But chewing Orbit or Wrigley's Extra stimulates saliva, which fights the plaque acid that causes cavities. Bienvenue to the club hot, deep in the throbbing heart of Paris. A slick, chic haven where the dapper denizens of the city by the Seine come to unwind. For here, we find the globally renowned antidote to all roughness. Heineken Export, the strong silken lager that's smoother than a cashmere codpiece. Heineken Export, as recommended by your smooth-talking bar steward.
Breaking soon. The power issue. Registering for information in the National Power and PowerGen share offer is simple. Just contact one of the many banks, building societies or brokers offering a share shop service. See the list in the national press.
This Sunday, we investigate the startling deathbed confession that atom bombs are buried in Wales.
That's what you want on Sunday.
It's Connects, the mega new toy for kids, and we've got a free starter kit for every reader.
That's what you want on Sunday.
Plus, the hottest Wales versus France review. If we don't stir your blood, no one will.
That's what you want on Sunday. That's what's in Wales on Sunday.
Get it this Sunday.
Join in the fun right now and make new friends on the phone. Call now on 0891 30 30 60. That's 0891 30 30 60.
Hello, welcome. Welcome back. You'll have to bear with me. There's been a slight change of plan. I've just got a cover for Dave because there's something he wants to show me. He's very excited
It's
about
all right.
something.
It's okay. I'm here.
Right.
Look, you know we're talking about sex in a minute.
I do,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, just between you and I.
Thank you.
I had one of those naughty parties at home. You know, with the.
Oh, thanks for the invite. Yeah.
You know,
thanks,
you know, where the woman brings the things and you know,
yeah,
you have.
yeah,
you know.
I do actually.
Yeah,
Yes.
I've had 'em, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to see what I got?
Oh yeah, go on. What?
It's got. I don't understand how you use them, but it was very exciting. Look, it was the naughty. Look, ready? Look. I don't quite understand how you use them.
No,
though.
well,
She
not
didn't
to
explain
worry, Dave,
that
because
bit.
I
She
can
just said,
explain
"Here they
it
are,"
all.
and yeah, I didn't
well,
know what
for a
to
start,
use.
you'll
Well,
get
or-
no use out of that one.
No.
So I'll hold on to this because it looks
Oh,
organic, and I'm
okay.
a stickler about what I eat.
Strange time to be making a salad, isn't it, really? But still, there we are. Anyway, whatever your position when it comes to sex, go on, snigger. Yeah, I thought you would. You're going to be seeing condom commercials on TV again. It's about 6 years since they were taken off our screens, and this week the ban was broken. Some of you will have already seen the Durex ad on Channel 4. Have a look at this.
Durex. Don't just buy them, wear them.
So is this the kind of commercial, along with pages of advice in numerous magazines on how to have better sex, just persuading us that if we're not already having sex, we should be? Well, with us on the sofa, Cornella Oddy, who says definitely not, and Jenny Eclair, who says yes, have fun. Let me start with you, Jenny, if I may.
So I was just straining trying to watch that commercial there, yeah.
Very good.
All that lovely young flesh. Wonderful stuff. Anyway, so... you are setting me up as a hopeless old slag here, aren't you?
No, not at all, not at all.
I'll be the old slag and
we're going to come down in a second, but I mean...
what?
In a second...
That's what you're trying to do.
In a sense, haven't organisations like those got a point? I mean, we've seen teenage pregnancies going up, we've seen more underage sex, more young women having babies.
Yes.
Yeah, isn't that because we're talking too much about sex?
It's not the talking about it that makes people have babies, it's the doing it, actually. I think you've got to realise that. I like that condom. Condoms are wonderful, aren't they? Put a stop to all that wet patch in the bed nonsense. I like them. I personally think that they should be installed in schools. I do. I think that schools should be very proud of their condom machines and have them in their school colours and all that kind of thing. I think sex education is very important. Sorry, what was the question?
I've forgotten. Do you seriously feel that we don't talk about, we talk about sex too much, that it's, we're getting it wrong?
I think we talk about it an awful lot. I also think that children are sexualised far too young.
Right.
But what I object to with that advertisement is, in fact, that condoms don't work. They don't do what they're supposed to do. They were laughed out of existence practically in the 60s because they didn't work then, and we had the pill instead. And now we're getting them back again under the illusion that, in fact, they prevent AIDS. They don't prevent AIDS. They have a 31% failure rate for AIDS. We have a higher teenage pregnancy.
That means they have a 70-odd% success rate, though.
It's not safe, though, is it? It isn't safe sex, by any means. There are other STDs which are not at all.
Right.
I mean, 46% of American schoolchildren have the human papillomavirus, which is the virus that causes cervical cancer. 46%.
Do you believe we should not be having sex until we get married, then? We should remain celibate until we're married?
I'm not married.
You've had it, then.
33 years old, I'd be going round like this. Come on, someone, please. No, I wouldn't. I am not that desperate. I think that if people don't have sex until they're married, they stand a much better chance of having a very lasting and stable marriage.
Right.
The trouble is, virgins are hopeless at having it off, aren't they? I did try once.
But it only takes once,
I did it once, and once is enough. And no, I did it, and I was really off-putting seeing a grown man look that pathetically grateful. And he cried. He cried. The bed was sodden with tears. I didn't know which wet patch to sleep in. I really didn't.
Let's go to the 100.
I did try.
Do we talk too much about sex or not enough? Gentlemen here, sir.
The lady said that the condoms don't work. There's got to be something inside the condom to make it work, hasn't there?
Yes, I think that's fair. Lady here.
For 18 years I've been a youth worker, and I've tried to explain to children in my care all about sex and why we should be a bit more careful. But how can we explain to children about the sanctity of marriage? We have got a responsibility to our children.
I see what you're saying. I know I'm a bit cheap, and I'll own up to that. I think that we have to teach, especially young girls, to respect their own bodies and all that kind of thing. I mean, but I did when I was a teenager. I was a bit of an old slag, it has to be said, because I wasn't very popular unless I put it about a bit. Because Jackie magazine would always say that teenage boys found a sunny smile and a nice nature is attractive to them as good looks and fashionable clothes. Bollocks. But, no, I take on. I've got a 5-year-old daughter myself, and obviously, I want her to be careful.
Aren't you frightened for her?
I'm frightened for her, but I'm equally frightened that she's going to turn into a right little Heidi on me. Because I think children have this thing of rebelling against their parents, don't they? Have you got a daughter?
I've got 2, yes.
I bet they're out raving it tonight.
One of them is too young.
Isn't there a danger that organisations like yours just repress people's sexual feelings? They make them feel guilty about sex, and that's why we end up with a lot of people going out and committing sex crimes?
No, I don't think... Nobody wants people to feel guilty about sex. You feel guilty about sex if you are doing something that is wrong.
What's wrong, though? I mean,
committing adultery is wrong.
Yeah, but if we're talking about just having sex...
And of course you feel guilty about that.
What's wrong with having sex just for fun? without with someone that maybe... What about one night stand? Let's look at that example.
Well, because
What's wrong with that?
It isn't satisfying. It doesn't get... It doesn't get you anywhere.
I'm not sure I agree with that.
Sex involves more than just the body. Sex involves also the heart and the soul and the whole psyche.
I don't think sex does. Making love maybe does, but
Yeah,
sex
there's two
doesn't.
different kinds of sex, isn't there? There's dirty, perverted sex and on a good night, and then there's making love, which is cosy and cuddly, and it's all
But that
rather
is what
nice.
sex is really...
Slightly dull
No,
sometimes.
that's what sex is really for.
Listen, can I just ask the 100? How many of you... Put your hands down for a minute, because you might want to. How many of you would say you're guilty of a one-night stand? Put your hand up, come on. Come on, be honest, come on. Yeah, well, all right, well, that's the wrong word. How many of you have had a one-night stand?
Proud of.
Well, it's quite a few of you. No, well, let's ask you. I mean, is there anything wrong with that?
I see absolutely nothing wrong with it at all. And it's interesting because everyone's having a go at Madame Chastity here, right? But I'd like to have a go at Jenny Eclair.
Okay.
Because I actually... I must say that in the past, people would say you must not have sex and you must have these sort of strict moral guidelines or you will burn in hell. Well, today, everyone says exactly the same things, only they say you're going to die of AIDS. And it seems to me that AIDS is just being used to enforce like a new Puritanism.
Oh, that's a good point. Let me put it back to you. Do you think that's true?
AIDS is reality asserting itself.
If you're a heterosexual, the chances of catching AIDS
are minimal.
Are absolutely minimal. So why are you scaring people?
As long as you're careful. I mean, I must admit I belong to those heady, wonderful days of the 70s when we didn't have the spectre of AIDS. I mean, I've, boringly enough, have been in the same relationship for 12 years, and sex is still quite good, but you've got to make a bit more of an effort, don't you, when you've been with the same person for a long time. Anyway, but, I mean, you know, it is more dangerous now, and... yes, I think it is used as a sort of, you know, the doom and the... it used to be pregnancy. It used to be, that was the big thing they used to do. Do you remember sex education classes at school? Did you get that film? I think it was called To Janitor's Son. And I think it was made by the same person that made The Exorcist. And it was so scary. You used to watch it and just girls would just slide off the stool. Oh, my God, you know. I mean, I think teenage pregnancy... not a waste. I wouldn't like it to happen to my daughter. And I say in my act that I don't think the government does enough about teenage pregnancy. If they really wanted to put girls off being...
It's not the
no,
government.
don't interrupt my line here, please. They should hire me to tour secondary schools flashing my gams because I've had a baby, you know, and that would put... and showing them what having a baby actually does to you, you know. Look at this, girls. This is your future. That would put them off. Anyway.
Well, it's put me off, I'll tell you that. Gentleman here, sir, go on.
Is there a case for polygamy and polyandry? Do you think we'd have a better balanced approach to this whole question?
Was that a book by Emily Thomas or something?
That's a point to both of them because in most societies there is
we'll work out
polygamy
what that
and
means
polyandry.
and then we'll find out in a second. Right. Let's go to a gentleman here.
Lots of wives.
Yes.
And so, Jenny, whilst I find the whole subject extremely serious, and certainly as I've got a young daughter myself, and obviously wouldn't want her to get into trouble, can I just ask you one question? Are you appearing here tonight as part of the advertising support campaign, and are you actually sponsored by the London Rubber Company with those trousers?
Get your sexy fabrics right. These are PVC. Rubber is different.
I don't know anything about that sort of thing.
Oh, try it, you'd like it.
Lady here.
I'd like to ask the lady in the brown, are you actually a virgin at marriage? That's one question I need to ask you, because a lot of people who advocate being virgins at marriage are big hypocrites.
No, I wasn't a virgin
They say
at
one
marriage.
thing,
No.
and then they actually do another.
She said no.
I wasn't a virgin. I'm not a lily white pure. I have learned from my mistakes, and so most of the people...
How many
on
before?
Gentleman on the front row, sir.
I'd like to laugh. Oh, sorry, I didn't catch your name at the start. What do you feel about adultery? Why do you think people commit adultery?
I think they commit adultery because they think that sex is going to give them a wonderful dream. It's going to bring them sort of heaven. And when it doesn't, when it's not like that, they think they have the right to try again with somebody else. And
So why can't that happen within marriage? Surely this is the talking about it. If your sex life goes dull on you, why not talk about it? Do something different.
Well, we absolutely advocate that, yes, certainly.
So-
Do something different with your husband. Don't commit it. Don't break your promises, you know?
But what's wrong with talking about it and
Nothing.
even talking to other people about
Nothing.
it?
Nothing.
All right, let's get some more. So, lady there had up earlier. Do you still want to say something?
I've got 3 teenage daughters, and I think we don't do enough in education.
at the end of the day, we've got to educate these children, and I don't think the schools do enough. And
Right.
to be honest, when my girls think they're ready, I'd rather see them on the pill than having, unwanted
All right,
babies.
let's get, no, lady here is shaking about. She's obviously got something to say.
I don't think
Go
it's
for
the
it.
responsibility of the schools or education to teach our children about sex. I think it's the responsibility of the parents to be open and honest with their children.
Lady on the front row.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Right, this is a present.
Let's show us the camera 3 because this is quite amazing.
This is
I like
excellent. This is my niece's dolly. She's 4 years old.
Right.
Her mother expected a baby. Now look at this.
This is a pregnant doll here.
This is
Look
a
at-
pregnant doll, right? Now my 4-year-old niece knows how a baby got inside her mummy because she was told by her mother and father.
Right.
Because
Well, let's give birth here because you just pull the stomach off
Look,
and,
you pull the
and
stomach
out
off.
pops the little baby.
And out pops the baby.
Isn't that sweet? Yeah.
That is the way sex should be taught when the mother gets pregnant.
Oh, it's
you know,
not
when-
mine. Look at that. Look at the cheek. Do you approve of things like that?
Yes, that's the way sex should be taught. It should be taught at home.
But
in
isn't
the
there- but
family.
just going back to
when the
what we-
mother gets
just going back
pregnant,
to
that's
what
how
we-
you explain it.
Going back to the point we made earlier about having sex for fun, if you're not in a relationship, and not everybody's lucky enough to be in a relationship, let's be honest about this.
But then...
If you're not, and you have sex for fun, and both people are adults, they're both consenting, they both want to have a bit of fun, what's wrong with that? What's the problem? If you have safe sex, you want to have fun, what's the problem?
I think it's degrading to the person that you are inside, to give yourself away at that intimate level to somebody for whom you don't care, who doesn't care about you.
But
you know,
You're doing it under pressure.
This lady's almost having an orgasm here. Hold on. What are you doing to say?
yeah.
Go on.
What I was going to say was, it's all very well saying that, OK, talk about sex to your children. I want my children to remain innocent for as long as possible. But
Yes.
when they ask me...
But when they're-
No, when they ask me, I'll tell them.
Sure.
But I don't want it rammed down their throat. I don't want them knowing what
Absolutely
it's
right.
all about too
When
soon.
you get pregnant, you
scare
want-
a child. I've got 2 boys.
You're right, yes.
To put a funny line, and I've got 2 boys. Now, they're going to feel
Okay.
up to performing when they
All right.
might not want
I'm gonna
to.
stop you all
So
for a
let
minute.
them
You're
come
quite
to
right.
I'm
You're
going to stop you for a
absolutely
minute because we're going to go some views at home from you. Fenelle's got some cards.
Oh, yes, I have indeed. It's a hot and sticky one this one, Dave. There's lots of people phoning in. Steady. Righto, off we go. Sarah from Kingswood. How can she say that the condom is no good and that the pill is better? This lady got pregnant at 17 and 18 when she was on the pill. Well, there's one
I
point.
never said the pill was good.
Fair enough.
Very damaging as well.
Just a comment, right. It's an anonymous phoner calling from Cardiff. This is a good one, actually. Durex should be advertised as a medical implement and not in a sexy way. Thank you, person from Cardiff. Lovely. Stella from Montpellier. There's a lot said about heterosexual sex, but nothing really said about gay sex, and in particular sex education and safety, especially with HIV around. It is the 90s, equal viewing and education. There you go. Good one. Trevor Saunders from Bridgewater. It is about time we accepted that teenagers do have sex and provided condom machines in toilets of schools for teenagers to protect themselves. Opposing view here, being the father of... This is... Oh, we haven't got a name and a number from this. Oh, sorry, yes, Kev Cooper from Gwent. Being the father of 2 teenage daughters, I am outraged, underlined, at the suggestion of condom machines in schools. And finally, Alison from Fish Ponds. People should have sex before they... people should have sex before they are married, but doesn't it... Oh, but doesn't think it's a big part of a relationship. Sorry,
I
having
thought
trouble
you
with
said
the
doesn't make your eyes go
Yeah,
funny.
there we go. Yay. Makes your eyes go strange. Yes, there we are, Dave. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much indeed. Actually, just to go back on one point here, that Durex ad is only allowed to be shown after 11 o'clock at night. Presumably a lot of younger people who maybe could benefit from seeing that aren't going to see it. They could all be doing it, you're right. Well, what do you feel about that?
It should be on in the commercial break during Neighbours. So
Right.
Does Neighbours have a commercial
No,
break? I don't know.
Home and Away.
Home and Away. That's the one.
That's the one.
Yeah, I mean, it's daft, isn't it? As you said, you know, they won't be watching telly at 11 o'clock. The people who should be watching it, they'll be having it off anyway. But yeah, it's a bit sad, isn't it, now that it's just pathetic. I mean, it's going halfway and then just like going, no, we don't...
Would you like to see... Well, how do you feel about that ad if it was shown earlier? Do you think 11 o'clock's too late? Would you not like to see it shown at all?
I don't think it should be shown at all.
what
I
reason?
think for the reason that it is misleading. It will make children think, or young people think that, or anybody think that it's actually safe, that you are safe if you wear a condom, and you are not. Latex rubber has natural flaws through which the HIV virus passes, and a lot of STDs
Isn't
can be
this just another set of
transmitted
excuses, though, to stop people having sex?
No,
I mean,
no,
you know,
no.
If you can't use pregnancy and you can't use the pill, then let's use this. Is that it?
No, because you could get yourself killed. You know, it really
But
is.
you don't really want people to have sex unless they're
Of
married.
course we want to have people to have sex.
Not unless they're married or they're in a relationship. You don't want people to have casual sex. So aren't you just
Casual
using
sex-
anything in your armoury you can
Casual
to stop
sex
people?
is very destructive of.
Oh, I don't know. Do you remember? Do you remember having it off on coats at a party? That was the best.
Lady here, yeah.
You can't quite recapture that.
Teenagers are going to have sex anyway, okay? You're
No,
not
no,
going
they
to stop
no,
them.
no, not
yes,
necessarily.
please don't interrupt me. Now,
They can
at
be told
least
not
tell
to.
them to make it safer. Obviously, it's not
It
gonna be
doesn't make it
100%
safer.
safe.
This is the point. Condoms do not make it very much safer. If you're prepared to take a 31% risk...
I think you will dispute your figures there, to be honest. But let's go.
Well,
gentlemen here on the
they're
end.
proper
So-
figures.
50 years ago, we used to lock up 15-year-old girls because they got pregnant, because we were repressed as a society. We've progressed from that. I think we should be openly discussing sex. We should include children as young as they can understand.
In the proper environment, in the home,
right.
not in the classroom.
Jenny, let's give a
In any environment we can. Whatever way we can educate.
Please, hold on a second.
Children are sexy beings. I mean, they have a sexuality. They're born with it. You know, little babies who change their nappies, little boy babies get little erections. They just, they do. You know.
But at
shocks
that stage,
me.
it's all latent. You know?
And then they play doctors and nurses, and then you know they
Sure they do. It's part of their sexual learning. It's part of their sexual growth.
Yeah,
But it shouldn't be done at school, and it shouldn't. There's far too much.
But it's obvious they're going to do it with someone else after they've got a little bit bored of doing it by themselves. Not, I think
No,
it's bad
they'll
doing
start
it.
getting interested in puppies and kittens and other things.
Oh,
If
I
they're
wouldn't
not-
say do it with puppies and kittens. No. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I can't stay on this programme with a woman saying have sex with puppies and kittens.
There we will have to leave it. A round of applause for our guests. Thank you. That is all we have time for this week on the show. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. I'll see you on GWR Radio on Monday night for the phone-in, and we'll all be back next week at the same time.
See you next week. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
For the hottest news on what's happening on stage and screen around the West, it has to be Spotlight, Mondays at 11:40 on HTV.